Hey everybody, it's tea time with the diva. Grab your tea, grab your coffee, because we're gonna get into it. This tea time is dedicated to the latest documentary that came out on Diddy over there on Peacock. Listen, if you're interested, I will be recapping this documentary tonight. We're streaming on both channels. Roy here from Roy's World and myself are joining together to recap this documentary on Peacock. But in the meantime, let me tell you a little something about it. It's for the most part, it's the same old. The same stuff we've been hearing from the same people we've been hearing it from. And then you got the anonymous people that don't want to show their face. But either way, it's pretty much a lot of the same. Now, back in the day with documentaries, you used to have to do a lot of fact checking. When a documentary came out, before any network would back it, for the most part, they had to make sure everything they saying was close to 90% true. Now, I'm not saying that this documentary is telling lies. I'm just saying it's telling us a lot of the same. And also, their words, not mine. This author of this article I'm about to go through with y'all, he said, how do we have a bodyguard that saw everything but told nothing? Those ain't my words. Those are, we're going to get into it. Let me go ahead and share a screen right now. And that's what I've been saying for a while. You seen this, you know that, you know everything, but nobody ever, even the people that claimed they was not afraid of Diddy, never, ever, ever went to the authorities. But let's continue. The Diddy documentary cycle has started, and it's already proven problematic, Andrew Lawrence writes. A sloppily assembled new Peacock documentary tracking the rise and fall of the disgraced hip hop mogul makes a strain of uneasy mistakes. Sean Combs is his mother's child, according to Tim Patterson, a close friend who lived with them Battle Bad Boy Records label founder in the 70s. You know what's wild? So why were you living with Diddy and his mama? Where were your parents? And I'm not saying you didn't tell the truth before this, so why are you here now? But we'll continue. It is what it is. Janice Combs was famous for throwing parties at her home in Mount Vernon, New York, that were especially popular with pimps, drug dealers, and other unsavory types. It wasn't uncommon for the boys, still quite young at this time, to naively walk into rooms and find partygoers having relations. That was just Saturday night, Patterson said. The legend of those freak offs is among the headline grabbing revelations in the Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy, a new Peacock documentary that attempts to trace the Combs bell curve from his middle class start to the height of cultural influence to the crash that tipped the Cassie Ventura bombshell SA lawsuit. The film joins the tidal wave of Diddy docs that have flooded the market since Combs' federal indictment for S crimes last September, dropping in between a three-part series from TMZ to Downfall. I watched it. It was okay. That arrived in April in a four-part Max series, The Fall, that's slated to be released later this month. I guess I'll cover that with Roy here also. Still to arrive is the Netflix production Diddy Do It, that was loudly and proudly announced by the rapper mobile 50 Cent, who him and Combs has had an ongoing feud for decades. The making of the bad boy feels like a rush job to exploit this ancient market. I think everybody is rushing out there because they know this is the story and they want to get the views off of this story. And the film doesn't do much to satisfy viewers who have either followed Combs or been following this case since Cassie dropped her lawsuit for the past 3 decades, or watch Jaguar Wright and other industry insiders left fly with the authoritative tinfoil hat theories. Among other sins, the doc tarries on the 1991 celebrity basketball game that triggered a stampede at New York City College, when more than 5,000 spectators showed up to the 2,700 capacity gym, reintroducing survivors who lost family members in a crush. And while you have to be stone-hearted not to feel for Sonny Williams, who reluctantly accepted a $50,000 settlement for his sister's death, even as Combs at that time was worth more than $40 million. I didn't know early on he was worth that type of money. A slap in the face, William called the offer. The tragic anecdote doesn't do enough to stand up to the central theory that Diddy was a good boy turned bad. The doc dangles a promise of never before seen images that will press the point home. Okay, corduroys of Combs dressed to the nine, a boy hustler, behind the scenes footage of him at home, while still a cultural um, um, colas supposedly shot just before one of his explosive tangents, but the dots in between never quite connect. Worse, the subject matter experts who get the most airtime are the same talking heads who have been most vocal about Diddy since the lawsuit began flurrying. Mila Morales, the makeup artist who went public as a witness to Combs' abuse of Ventura at the leaked footage, confirmed as much. And this is when Diddy said, "I was effed up," Combs explained, reaching for contrition. Gene Dill, the Diddy bodyguard who saw everything and stopped nothing. Ariel Mitchell Kidd, the victim lawyer in the spotlight seeking motive legacies, women's advocate Lisa Bloom, who also appears naturally. But somehow more upsetting than this shock doc anonymous interviews with alleged A victims of Combs, more on their claims later, is the reoccurring presence of psychoanalyst Carolyn West, whose main job is to tie Combs' alleged horrors to childhood trauma. By her reckoning, it all goes way back to Cohn's father, Melvin, an associate of the Harlem drug kingpin Frank Lucas, a sharp dresser and ladies' man who went by the nickname Pretty Boy. Melvin was arrested in 1971 for drug possession and let go as his crew's $5 million heroin distribution chain was busted. Less than a year later, Melvin was found unalived. And the word on the street was he was unalive for snitching on the whole operation. Lucas makes a point of rejecting this in his biography, calling Melvin one of the few people I considered a friend. Sean was just 3 years old at the time, even though Combs has reflected on that loss over the years, including in a documentary for his own Revolt TV cable network. The Peacock crew leaves it to West to rip on Combs' arrested emotional development and residue feelings of abandonment and insecurity. The film leans on West psychoanalyzing to bridge his transition from pretty mama's boy, spoiled rotten, to a proper gang member with his own street name, Puff Daddy. Statements from Combs' legal team rendered through slow flashing title cards meant to parry specific allegations against Combs by reasserting his innocence only seemed to encourage production to present even wilder ideas, not least whether Combs had anything to do with the deaths of Tupac and Biggie. Woman who remains anonymous alleges Combs, with the help from associates, had her plucked from a club covered in baby oil that felt like acid before arming her with a TV remote. She recalls going into a catatonic state before escaping to a neighboring home to call the police, whom she further alleges reluctantly took down her report. Mitchell Kidd, the woman's attorney, confirmed this, but when production requested proofs from law enforcement, they were stonewalled. That might have been the end if Albert Brown III didn't have more to say about our bad boy. They put this toxic or baby oil on her that had something in it, but then they got on top of her and the baby oil didn't impact them. We'll carry on. Best known by the stage name Albie Shore, Brown is a prominent foil in Combs' villain arc. The new Jack Swing superstar who was climbing the R&B charts as Combs was starting out with Uptown. In one of the many wary asides, Brown recalls being at the recording session as his girlfriend Kim Porter was holding their newborn son Quincy. When Combs walked in and said, "Clear enough for bystanders in the room to hear, I wish I had a beautiful girl like that." Cut to years later, Combs on the top of the world is introducing Porter as his girlfriend and Quincy as his son. Brown remained close with Porter until her death in 2018, with conspiracy theorists blamed on Combs. And even though pneumonia was determined to be the official cause of Porter's death, that hasn't stopped Brown from suggesting foul play over the years. In the documentary, as he has in other venues, Brown straight up calls Porter's death unaliving. As I suppose to say allegedly, he purrs into the camera. Brown further claims Porter was drafting a memoir at the time of her death, an assertion her children, Quincy included, has forcefully denied. What's more, Brown doesn't disabuse conspiracy theorists who hold Combs responsible for Brown's own near-death experience in 2022, which he calls a hit job. Finally, to put a fine point on it all, Mitchell Kidd, again, a lawyer, pronounces Combs as an embodiment of Lucifer. By the time West, The Shrink, circles back to the question of personal accountability. The documentary 90 minutes are all but exhausted. All the while, far more interesting avenues along the Combs arc, such as who was in his network of enablers and how they would dispatch, go largely unexplored. It's remarkable that filmmakers were able to get this thing past the corporate council at NBC Universal. It goes to show how far the standards for documentary filmmaking have dropped, but also how easy it is to pile on Combs at this low ebb. Even if it's true, as Patterson, the boyhood friend who lived with Combs, asserts, that monsters are created over time, Combs was not some Marvel character doomed to an unfortunate timeline. He was a man who had all the means at his disposal to work out his daddy issues in therapy. Why should a documentary go out of its way to apologize for him when he could barely be bothered to do that himself? What do I think? I think that, they said when it rains, it pours. That's a saying back in my day. When it rains, it pours. It's raining on Diddy. There's been thunderstorms, tsunamis. Forget about a rain pour. A raincoat, umbrella, boots, and everything is not going to help him at this point. He is the money maker right now for for anybody that is in the industry of reporting things. He's the money maker, and everybody's going to jump on it and hop on it and make that money. But I do want someone to give us something different. I do want to see some attempted police reports, some police reports, something a little bit more. Now, listen, do I doubt that he has done some things? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Do I doubt that he has ripped off artists? Well, I don't know an artist yet, whether Diddy was their producer or whoever or at the record label. I know so many that all say they have been ripped off. There's so many artists that don't own their music. Name is not on the music that they wrote. They're not getting their royalties. I want to say, what's the name? Angie Sohn spoke about it recently, but it's countless of people that say that. So, like I said, we will be recapping this documentary tonight. I agree with this article. Just sloppy work. And I need them to give us something new, something different, so we really can go like, oh my. The addition here, I guess, is a childhood friend who actually lived with them and said the mama threw parties like that. But most of us, whether we like it or not, we have traits of our parents. And they could be good, they could be bad, they could be a mix of both or everything in between. Listen, guys, y'all know the routine. Chat with me in the comments, and when I get opportunity, I will chat back. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that every time I upload a video, you will be notified. If you are a subscriber, welcome back. Everybody, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this situation. Chat with me. Hope you really y'all will join us tonight, and I'll chat back. Hit the like button. I'll see you in the next video.